Hello and welcome to the Tough Girl podcast, which is all about motivating and inspiring you. I'm your host, Sarah Williams. The Tough Girl podcast is sponsorship and ad-free thanks to the monthly financial support of patrons. To find out more about supporting the Tough Girl podcast and becoming a patron, please check out Patreon, patreon.com/Tough Girl podcast and help me to increase the amount of female role models in the media. All patrons will get their name on a dedicated patrons page on the Tough Girl website. All female patrons, $5 and above, are invited to join the closed Facebook group, the Tough Girl Tribe. Today, I'm delighted we're going to be speaking with Nazia Khatun. She's an award-winning fitness specialist who's connecting neuroscience and fitness to help you fall in love with yourself. Nazia has been defying stereotypes from an early age, from fitting into her role as an athlete and what would be accepted as a Bangladeshi female. Please be aware that during this episode, we do talk about eating disorders and depression. We do not go into specifics, but please make sure that you are in a good place before you listen to this episode.
So my name is Nazia Khatun. I connect neuroscience and fitness together to take people on a journey of self-discovery. Fitness is just a tool that I use to get them to fall in love with their bodies, accept where they are. And really and truly, it's getting people to get motivated and stay inspired and take control of their life by using fitness as a tool for their emotional well-being, their overall well-being, really. And I've been doing this for the last 8 years, I think. Wow, that's a long time.
I'd love to go back to your childhood and growing up. Were you sporty? Were you into your fitness from quite a young age? Were you from a sporty family?
Actually, no. I grew up in a very traditional Bangladeshi family where we just played outside, to be honest. I guess that is a form of sports, but just being free. We didn't realize we were participating in fitness because we were just children at that time, and we grew up in the 1990s. So playing outside was one of the huge benefits we had as children. But then I started playing football in school, and then it just became a way of life, I think, without even realizing it.
So tell me about fitness then. So you said that you sort of got into it 8 years ago. What happened 8 years ago to sort of make you make that decision to get into fitness?
I think, like when you're going through your teenage years are the most, the difficult stages of your life. And I went to an all-girls school, and an all-girls school means you don't really think about the way you look. Everybody's just paying attention to studies. And if you like sports, you like sports. But it's only when I went to college, a mixed college, and I realized, wow, I was quite big. I was quite fat. I was quite out of shape. And I didn't like it compared to the other Asian girls in college. And I started developing a really bad relationship with food, and that developed into something major in an eating disorder that was anorexia, bulimia, and then binge eating. And I used exercise excessively, where it led me to have major injuries, and it set me back in so many ways. That's when the real journey started, I think. And I was an amateur boxer as well, Sarah, for like 8 years. And I started my amateur boxing days at the age of 21, which was quite late. But it really served me in the way I managed my emotions and developed having something there as a tool for my mental well-being. But then along the way, changing my career into fitness, I did face some huge obstacles, and I slipped into depression.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think, you really did hit the nail on the head, because, when you're a teenager, but it is, with puberty and boys and stress of study and exams, like there is a lot going on for teenagers. And I think even now, like throw in social media and everything else that's going on in the world, it is a very, very stressful time. When you were at college, was that the reason that you got into boxing, or how did that develop?
Well, no, actually, I started using the gym, and when you're young, I think everybody who has a body think they know how to train. And I joined the gym, and I just overused the treadmill. I didn't have a clue how to train, to be honest with you. I just did what everybody else was doing. And now looking back at it, I didn't realize just how dangerous that was, following trends, following magazine workouts. And that left me with severe sciatic nerve damage, lower back issues. I was running like for hours on a treadmill. With the wrong trainers, and that took me out of the gym, and I started putting on a lot of weight. And I remember when I was age 17, so it goes back and forth. When I was age 17, I had Muhammad Ali's daughter, Tatiana Ali, who came into one of our assemblies at the time. And where I was a very dominant sports personality at college, they asked me to go and interview her. I didn't have a clue who Tatiana Ali was, let alone who Muhammad Ali was. I just knew that she was a very symbolic icon. But when I was out of the gym with injuries, I remember Tatiana Ali being this strong, bold, confident, because she was a woman of color as well. It really made me feel like, okay, if she can do it, maybe I can try something different. And the first time I stepped into the boxing ring, it was such an euphoric feeling. It took me away from my eating disorders and recovering in a weird way. But then I realized I was probably having another kind of eating disorder in my athletic times as well, where it was trying to fit in with the crowd and having a six pack, having a toned body. Everything just changed with time. But boxing was the foundation of who I am today, and it served me in such a crazy way. But that's how it started, really.
Yeah. With your eating disorder, were you able to get professional help? Were you speaking with doctors or professionals? How did you help yourself?
That's a very delicate question, to be fair, and I'm going to touch on something that's probably that needs to be spoken about. I grew up in a very traditional Bangladeshi community. We don't talk about eating disorders. We don't talk about mental health. We don't talk about topics that are sensitive. So I spent most of my life feeling like I was an outcast, or it was a very alienated time for me. And it was seen very much as a Western Caucasian female issue. And in the Asian community, so many of us were struggling about it, but we didn't know how to speak about it, let alone get help. And it's not something, if I'm honest, it's not something I will ever get over. I think it's just knowing how to control it and managing episodes when it comes up, especially in lockdown this year, Sarah. I found myself binge eating, and then having this idea of not eating the next day and going back and forth to my old habits. And that wasn't healthy. So I have had therapy in my adult age when I realized I did have an eating disorder. I spent most of my years not realizing I had an eating disorder till I became aware of it. And then it was a different way of looking at it and dealing with it.
Yeah. And you mentioned boxing as well, coming from a Bangladeshi, family and the community. What was how does it work? Like, if when you go back to your family, I want to try boxing, is that like approved? Is it not approved? Were you encouraged? Was that sort of stepping outside traditional stereotypes?
Definitely. One of the key things I noticed was I was defying stereotypes and stepping out of the norm of what was expected for a Muslim, Bangladeshi, Asian female. When I transitioned from the gym into the boxing, I kept the boxing very much quiet, and I kept telling my parents it was just fitness. They were okay about it until I told them I was competing. Then my father had an issue with it, and he was very much against it. My mother was very concerned that I might just get punched in the face and die. And my father's biggest concern was who will marry me and what will people think about me being a Bangladeshi Muslim female boxing, because it was unheard of. When you think about it, this was like a good over 10 years ago. And the females that we see now, it's like the variety of females coming out on social media doing different kind of sports. I wish I had that back then. I wouldn't have felt so alone. But it was a very difficult time having to stand my ground. And I loved it. I loved sports. I loved it with a passion. And it was something that I held on to for different times of my life. And it gave me this sense of identity and making me feel like I exist, that I matter in the world as a young person going from adolescence into my adulthood as well. So now it's probably more acceptance, and I've just turned it around, and how people see it is just very different from the time I was doing it. So yeah.
A couple of words that you said there, you were going against stereotypes and you felt, very alone, but you continued on and you went on into competing and you wanted to stand your ground. Where did this determination come from? Because there must have been a lot of pushback on you.
Well, it was weird because my father has like five daughters. There's five sisters, yeah. And he always encouraged us to be educated, make sure we use our voice when it's needed and everything. But when it came to this boxing, it was a little bit of a threat to him maybe at the beginning, but then he just accepted it and let it go. And I think a lot of my determination came from actually being a rebel, if I'm honest with you, and not wanting to be like this average Joey who was just sitting at home. The fear of living a bog standard life used to terrify me, and I would do anything to step out of this normality or being the average version of myself. And boxing really took me out of my comfort zone, and it took me to a place in my mind where I felt I could do whatever I wanted in the world. And it was ingraining this self-belief in me, this self-determination, this self-resilience as well, not giving up kind of attitude, which I believe has got me to where I am today in a weird way. Like sports helped me become the version of me in business, in life, and doing whatever I wanted. So I'm not sure really how to answer that. It was just doing what I wanted to do and just sticking to my ground. I thought, no, I'm not giving up on this. I want to do this and I'm going to continue doing it.
Yeah. I mean, stepping into the boxing ring and competing is very, very different from boxing training and, hitting a bag, because obviously you've got somebody who is hitting back. Tell us about competing. What was that like for you?
Scary. It was very scary. It was terrifying, actually. And I used to spend like 6 months training for a tournament. And I wish I had taken it really seriously like the boxers did when they became professionals and amateur. But I did it at a time just to see how far I could go. But once you come out of that ring after getting your head battered for about 15 times, you realize, it's setting you up for other things in life, the obstacles that I face, the rejections, and it's just showing up. It's showing up and saying, hey, here I am. Whatever happens, I'm going to deal with it. And I think a lot of boxers, they have to have this kind of ego that says, I believe in myself no matter if the world doesn't. And it's this, I'll keep going back to this thing called attitude. Our attitude determines how we see the world, and our mindset creates who we are in the given time.
Absolutely. I mean, you talked about earlier, you joined the gym, you talked about, your body and, following fad diets and, following what was going on in the magazine and jumping onto the running machine and just running. When did you start to, I suppose, improve your education around your gym and the knowledge and figuring out what was going to work for your body in like a really healthy and positive way?
Well, I started my career in the fitness industry probably very late. It was about 28, 29. And everything I had learned before that was just a joke, really. I was like, wow. I was actually so shocked to learn about how the body worked, how my body responded, learning about different body types, all that kind of stuff. The only advantage I had was having this unshakable mindset of just waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning and going for my boxing runs and then being in the gym about 8 o'clock and then training for another 3-4 hours. But I think I really changed my being of who I am now while I went through depression. And that depression came through, I stopped boxing. I had just taken a career change. I was faced with so much adversity. I had a lot of trauma that I had to get rid of from the eating disorder and this invisible pressure from society saying, you have to be married by a certain age. All my friends were getting married, having children, and I just felt left behind. And that's when I really nailed on the psychology of human behavior, being able to change my habits, changing the way I looked at the world, being grateful for everything I have. And these are the things that that's not taught to us. And another very important point is learning how to love myself in this process as well. When the penny dropped, recovering from depression as well. Self-love and fitness combined were the two things that really took me out of my darkness. Yeah.
Yeah. With regards to your habits, where did you start? Like, how did you start making changes to your habits? Was it just in one day making that decision? Was it small little steps over time? Yeah, how did you do it?
I think with fitness, athletes already have fitness ingrained in them because it's practice. Practice and repetition makes you become who you want to be. That goes for both positive habits and negative habits. And one of the really key things I wanted to change was not looking at my body as, aesthetically pleasing to other people. And I had to work on the inner work every single day, like looking at myself in the mirror and saying, hey, you are pretty enough. You are enough. You are beautiful. Stop asking for validation from the world and start believing in yourself. And that took a lot of work. Like it was so much more harder working on my mindset than it was packing my bag and going to the gym, right? I could go to the gym and work out for 3 hours. That's easy for me. But when you have to face parts of you that's like really deep, you really have to go deep inside and pull the poison out before you can actually embark on this journey of liking yourself. And every time, even till now, I will set small goals. If it's an approach towards my fitness, setting those small goals leads to the bigger picture. But you have to start somewhere and know it and becoming aware of it actually as well, Sarah. Like, for example, if somebody's smoking, they don't want to smoke, they want to give up, but they've tried so hard. First step is make a decision you want to change. The second step is replace the smoking maybe with going for walks, and automatically it's like a domino effect. And the brain can only do one thing at a time. It doesn't work really well when it's at conflict and it's at war with one another or with yourself, basically. And the best way to do it is just taking one step at a time. And that's the best way I approach it with myself and with my clients.
Yeah. I liked how you talked about getting the poison out.
Yeah.
I think that's really powerful because I think people can sometimes just be their own worst enemy. I know years ago, like I think, my God, my negative inner voice of the stuff that I used to say, it's not like that anymore. Now I'm like, God, I've got like cheerleaders, there's lots of hearts and love and like self-belief and yeah, just lots of love going on. So it's super, super positive. But what things were you doing to actually get the poison out?
Oh my God, that is I don't know. I wish I'd kept a journal actually. The poison, I mean, when I speak about the poison, we all have trauma. And when we don't heal the trauma, it manifests in our addictions to certain things. Addiction to excruciating gym workouts, addiction to television, excessive eating, emotional eating. All these kind of things that we participate in that isn't good for us can be addictive. The moment I learned how to love myself, and actually, you know what? It's crazy. It just started with 3 words. And that was every single day saying I am enough as an affirmation. Every morning I woke up, I would look in the mirror and say I am enough. And one of the key things I teach my clients is reconnecting with yourself by looking in the mirror. So it's called the mirror work, really. And that's where it started initially. And then I started doing a lot of therapy work and understanding my toxic behavior with myself, where my negative chat was coming from, right? Where was the lack of self-belief there? Where was the doubt? Where was it coming from? And most of it goes back to childhood for a lot of us, right? And when you can work through your childhood traumas, even my eating disorder was the biggest ever poison I had to work with. And that was very overwhelming at times. And actually looking in the mirror and saying, hey, Naz, you are beautiful just the way you are. You don't need this guy to say you're beautiful. You don't need this guy to compliment me or compliment you. You can compliment yourself. And you know what's really crazy? The moment you fall in love with yourself, Sarah, the world around you has a problem, because then you're seen as big-headed, then you're seen as overconfident, you're too arrogant, and people confuse. You don't have to be arrogant to be confident. There's a fine line being confident and being arrogant. And we're not used to seeing confident people. We're not used to seeing people who love themselves, because society constantly tells us go and work out, go and do this, go and follow this trend, and so many other things besides, an aesthetic way of looking at the world or how we look as well.
Yeah.
I hope all of that makes sense.
It does. I think you're hitting the nail on the head. One of the things I'd be really interested in, and especially from your perspective, is being a Muslim. And do you follow Ramadan?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'd love for you to share a little bit more about Ramadan, and there's obviously fasting involved for the month of Ramadan, and how that combines with an eating disorder. Do you see what I mean with like that combination of this, Ramadan, fasting, eating disorder? Is that a problem? Is that not a problem? How does that work for you?
Wow, what a beautiful question. So Ramadan is the time where Muslims fast from sunrise, sunrise to sunset. And it's a great time for us to do a lot of inner work and connecting with the universe and God. And I've done a lot of articles on this on my website, and I should write a lot about this on my Facebook. It can also be the most testing time for people who go through an eating disorder. An eating disorder, as I understood it, is I have control over what I eat and what I don't eat. And when Ramadan, every year Ramadan comes, and I struggle with it mentally. One, because the two most important things in my life have been now taken away: food and exercise. And it's not something I'm making a choice. It's compulsory on me now. And my brain just goes crazy. And over the time, I've realized I really struggled with keeping fast for the whole day, and I'll break it. And I don't know why. And it was like, where is this coming from? This urge just to drink coffee, this urge just to have a donut, and then I won't eat anything the whole day. And it all boiled down to the fact that those eating disorder days still comes back, and the times when it's a month of fasting, I can't cope because now fitness has been taken away. The coping mechanism that helps me survive on a day-to-day basis. And it can be a very daunting time for me at the beginning. But I think this year has been quite enriching because, one, I've been at home with lockdown, and two, I really dug deep to understand why the eating disorders keep coming up. And one of the key things was coming up was acceptance, really, again and again and again. So working through it now, it's like, okay, let's see how next year Ramadan is going to work for me. And everybody goes through it. You got to remember, when you're in a fasted state, all your emotions come up 10 times more than on a day-to-day basis where you're eating, being distracted by things around you, work and everything. So it's a deep time to reflect. But if you're reflecting and you're not changing, it can have an adverse effect. But then the positive out of this is knowing there's beauty in the darkness as well.
When it comes to mindset and mental resilience, mental grit, determination, focus, everything that's going in, what is your mindset?
I think over the years, it's like from my own experience living in my body, when I had the most strongest body, Sarah, I had the six pack, I had the toned glutes, everything, I was the center of attention, blah, blah, blah. I was mentally really, really weak. And it just didn't make sense. I was like, okay, I'm doing all the hard work here, but why am I still so emotionally fragile? And one of the things we're not taught in school is emotional intelligence, how to work with our emotions. The female body goes through oh my God, changes when it's a menstrual cycle, when she's pregnant, post-pregnancy, all of that kind of stuff. And not knowing how to work with my emotions, where I was reacting all the time, caused me a lot of grief and unnecessary trouble. So when I started to heal, I was more aware of my emotions. And now I keep telling this to people as well, my clients: become emotionally strong, then focus on the body. The mind is where everything happens. If we can't manage anything there, the body will listen to it. And I'll give you an example. It's like me when I go to the gym. I tell myself, okay, I can only do 30 minutes. But what would happen if I did 5 more minutes extra? mentally I'm holding on to saying something. I want to become the best version of myself. Those extra 5 minutes is going to make me the best version of who I was when I initially came into the gym. And that kind of translates into other areas of my life, of staying focused, doing things I never thought I could do, reaching out to people that I'd probably be scared of, going to places, interacting with people I would never do. It's really taking me out of my comfort zone. And the workouts has been one of my major places where I test how far I can go. What can I do today that will be different from yesterday? And what version of myself do I want to see show up today?
Two questions almost in one. Are you training for anything at the moment? And what does a typical week look like of training for you? What's involved?
Oh my God, I've just signed up to do Kilimanjaro in February. I have no idea why I'm doing this. I'm going crazy. But I think for me personally, I always need a challenge. And it gives me more to focus on with my workouts and really test just how far the human mind is limitless. And I don't even know what it's capable of doing. And I've never climbed a mountain before. And so it's going to be interesting to see my workouts from now till then and how I survive the cold as well. So pray for me. Right now, it's all about getting up at 6:30 in the morning and doing my morning rituals. Without a morning ritual, the day just goes flop. And the morning ritual does consist of a gym workout almost every day. And then I've got clients full on, and then I'm connecting with different people, collaborating, partnership, and just putting myself out there more and more. Like having this knowledge with neuroscience and connecting with fitness has enabled me to actually help other females love themselves, rediscover themselves, recreate the way they look at their health and the fitness and everything. So it's going to be a tough few months ahead, and let's see where it takes me really into the new year as well.
So why did you pick Kilimanjaro?
It's been on my bucket list, to be fair, for like years from a very young age. And one of the things I wanted to do was climb Mount Everest, and I just realized how hard it was. So in 2012, I managed to go to India, Nepal, and I took a plane out there just over the mountain, and that was good enough for me. Okay. And then Kilimanjaro is, I've seen so many people do it, and I thought, I'm not a climber. I come from a running background or a boxing background, and I thought, okay, this is different. I want to do something different. And that's the whole idea, is just stepping out of my comfort zone in a major way and just doing it. Not even thinking about it, just saying, here you go. There you go. Just do it.
Great goal to work towards. And you talked about morning rituals. And obviously, gym workout is one of them. I'd love for you just maybe talk us through your morning. What time are you getting up? What are you eating? What are you consuming? What do you do in your morning? What's your morning rituals?
Right. The morning ritual starts before I go to sleep. And it's visualizing and meditating how I want to see my day the next day. And this is something that I've been practicing for years. I don't get it right all the time because our thoughts slip away with us. But lately, what I've been doing is just closing my eyes before I go to sleep and just seeing how Nazia moves when she wakes up. And one of the first things I do when I wake up is 6 o'clock, 6:30. Lately, it's been a bit later because the season's changing. So I just give myself some time to rest. And just saying thank you. As soon as I wake up, I say thank you for life, and being grateful. Gratitude changes the way we see the world when we wake up, because automatically we're thinking about yesterday's stuff that happened that didn't happen, and we are literally wired to think negative when we wake up because we're trying to survive. So we have to be grateful for the things ahead of us, and I just give blessing to my day ahead. Then I'll wake up, I'll drink water, have my breakfast if I feel hungry within the hour. I will pray, I will meditate, and then I'll do a 15 to 20 minute gratitude journal. And that's just finding about 20 to 25 things that I'm really grateful for. And then in that gratitude journal, I also, like if I have goals, I give thanks to my goals before it's happened. And somehow it manifests in time. And you have to understand that whatever our thoughts are, we can direct them to a way of thinking and attracting things that we want in our life. Then by about 8:30, I'll probably be in the gym. 9 o'clock, the latest. I probably spend about an hour and a half in the gym, and then I prime myself to get ready for the day and just take on the clients. I deal with a lot of clients with heavy emotions, so I have to be equipped and ready. And I'm my first client in the morning before I can serve anybody else. So that's my morning routine, and it changes like day to day what I can fit in, but it's the most important part of my day.
I love what you said, that I am my first client, that you are your number one priority. And because you can't help your clients if you're not feeling in the best mental, physical, emotional shape, and starting I love how you're starting your day with gratitude. Like, that's an incredible thing to do. One of the things that you talked about earlier was you do work with a lot of women, and we've talked about love and fitness. And what would be and obviously I know it's very specific and very individual for every single woman, and it would be slightly different. But just, I suppose, generally, what advice would you have for women who are learning to love themselves? Like, what advice would you have?
It doesn't happen overnight. I've been on the self-love journey since I just turned 30. And I'm now 37, and every day is new, and it comes with the highs and lows. Like, to think you can love yourself on a constant level every day is just ridiculous, because there are times when we fall out of love with ourselves. And there are days when it's enhanced. Our confidence, our self-esteem is like, okay, whatever, I can take on the world. And then another day it can be right at the bottom. And it's just understanding, as humans, we're forever in a constant state of change, and how we deal with those changes is what makes us. And one of the best advice I give to people is, when you're starting on this self-love journey, be kind to yourself, be compassionate to yourself. Perfectionism really doesn't exist. Our flaws is what makes every single one of us beautiful in our unique selves. And it's just embracing the broken parts of you, the parts of you that need love, and it's just giving it a space to showcase who you really are. Self-love is something that's not taught to us from a very young age. Like, I think to myself, Sarah, if I was taught how to love myself and know how to be happy and how to be successful, my life would be so different right now. Like, I don't think I would have spent years in doubt, years not believing in myself, and my career took longer to kick off because I spent so many years learning how to polish me. And I'm still not the end version of being polished. But imagine what could have been done if I had started my self-love journey from a very, very young age. So it's very important to keep passing on the baton, as they say. Wherever I learn, I teach to other females, and they pass it on to their children, and they pass it on to females around them. And men need it too as well. We need it to have a healthy, functioning society where we are all okay with ourselves and not trying to please other people all the time.
You talked about change in there, and obviously, there's been a huge amount of change in 2020, and one of those, COVID pandemic. How have you found that time period? Like, how have you coped during COVID?
Well, at the beginning, to be honest, I really went into my bubble, and I said to a friend at the beginning, I said, everything I have learned about psychology, neuroscience, the mind, this is where it actually needs to be practiced right now, right? Imagine having spent all my life working on how to be the best version of myself, and then I crumble now. I was like, no, I can't let that happen. So I just stayed very, very regimental and more strict on my morning rituals. And I truly believe doing the gratitude journal, meditating, going out for those long walks is what kept me sane. Having said that, though, there was a lot of times where I was just repressing emotions, and I had probably about 3 bursts of just really feeling rock bottom. And one of the best things I can do for myself is acknowledging that I'm not okay, that my mental health isn't okay, and reaching out to people when I need them. Whereas the old version of me will just bottle it up, and then I'll pop, and then I'll be in the worst ever situation ever. This year has been very, very testing, but at the same time, so much has come out of it. I've allowed to rest. I've been able to work on my relationship with myself, my family members, people that I needed to, and have a different perspective of life, really, and understanding what to be grateful for more of than complaining, to be honest with you.
Nazia, for women out there who are thinking, do you know what? I need to do more health and fitness. I've been thinking about it for ages. I know I need to take the first step. And I actually think that that's the hardest thing to do, because once you've actually taken that first step, you then have momentum, and momentum, you're just moving forward, and it's a lot easier to keep on going. But what advice would you have around, taking that first step for women who want to get into fitness and improve their health?
The best advice I would give is stop following people out there who are doing things that are different to you. Comparison is really the thief of all the joy. The second one is just take one step. The third one I would say is stop looking at your body and fitness. No, stop looking at fitness as a way of getting into the best shape possible. That will be a byproduct, but first look at how fitness can enhance how you feel. And I keep chasing this thing of feeling good, feeling greatness. There will be days when I don't feel at my best with my physical body, where I feel a bit bloated and everything. But knowing how to use fitness and shifting my energy to feeling good about myself, that's where you win the game. And then that becomes a momentum of chasing the feeling of feeling good, right? And that also creates a beautiful way of thinking about your body. And I like to also add this to people as well. What we think about creates a feeling in our body, and what we feel in our body creates our reality. So if you have a very negative thinking about your body of, like I used to, I'm fat and ugly, and I kept repeating that all the time, my body's going to react to that and keep me in a state of fat and ugly. And then I'm going to look at the world in a fat and ugly way, right? In a very negative way. So if we can change that thinking to accepting where you are, I love myself for who I am, I have a healthy body, you will see the changes in your body slowly. It will just, your body's constantly listening to what you're saying. So be careful of what you're saying about yourself. And I love this quote. I just want to add this as well, Sarah. Mae West said this quote so beautifully. And she said, if I were to talk to my friends the way I speak to myself, they would no longer be my friends. Right? And that, I remember at the time when I was changing, was so powerful, and it took me out of talking negatively about myself. And our life is here to enjoy, not just think about how many pieces of chicken we can eat or broccolis we can consume that day. Be kind to yourself at the same time as well.
Oh, absolutely. Totally love that. And Nazia, where's the best place for people to find more information about you, to follow along with your fitness journey, and to follow along with your Kilimanjaro adventure?
Oh my God, yes. You can find my website, www.naziakhatun.com. And on Instagram, I am Fitness Reborn UK1. And I'll be doing lots of stories about my journey, the highs and the lows. So yeah, welcome to the life of Nazia.
Fantastic. Nazia, thank you so much for coming on Tough Girl podcast. It's been amazing to speak with you. I love so much hearing about, your love for fitness and your love for yourself, and, all the amazing stuff that you're doing to empower and encourage other women to, love their bodies as well.
Thank you.
Hey tribe, I hope you enjoyed the episode with Nazia. What an absolute inspiration. Everything that we have talked about today will be available in the show notes at toughgirlchallenges.com. So please do go check out the main website, subscribe, follow along so you can be kept up to date with all of our future guests. So new episodes of the Tough Girl podcast come out on a Tuesday and a Thursday at 7 a.m. UK time. I just want to share a little bit more about our guests that we have coming out next week, which is a lady called Katie Holmes. So I first came across Katie when I discovered her blog, which is called Run Young 50, a blog about women over 50 running in the UK. And Katie's such an incredible, inspiring woman. I'm just going to share a little bit more about her reasons for why she started the blog. So her reasons for starting the blog was she wanted to share and give value to the stories of older female runners. So Katie turned 50 and she was aware that she'd reached an age where women are less valued by society and can seem to be invisible. They are generally not expected to be physically active, and active older women rarely appear in the media. When they do, the narrative often focuses on them as exceptions to the rule and casts them as supergrands. Exceptional stories can alienate us, as we may feel that we can never aspire to the same level of achievement. Katie believes, as I do, that ordinary stories hold just as much value and we can learn just as much, if not more, from them. So Katie then shares more about some of the interviews that she's done with women aged 50 to 70 plus with different running biographies and motivations. But one of the interesting things that she shares as well is that as time has gone on, she's become more and more interested in the history of women's endurance running and the campaigns for women to be allowed to run marathons. She's written about pioneering marathon runners Joyce Smith, Catherine Switzer, Jacqueline Hansen, and Diane Leather, the first woman to run a mile in under 5 minutes. So Katie believes, as I do, that it's important to share these stories from the past, stories which show what women achieved in the face of limited opportunities and prejudice, stories that built the foundations for women's sports today. We should not allow the prejudice of the time to make them invisible to us now. So we're going to be speaking to Katie about her running journey. She's going to be sharing more about her blog, runyoung50.co.uk, and also sharing more about some of the historic stories of women's endurance running. So it's going to be an absolutely fascinating episode. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out. Massive thank you again to all of the patrons and supporters of the Tough Girl podcast who allow me to share this content. I honestly believe it is so important to get these stories out there, to show women what has been achieved in the past, but also what is being achieved and the dreams that women have and how they're breaking them down and how they're achieving them. It is absolutely paramount to help drive change in society, to encourage other women to get fit and active, to travel, to explore, and to live the best lives that they can possibly live. Thank you again for all of your incredible support. And my final message to you is just have an incredible day. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, just give it your all, give it 110%, get after it, go for it. Believe in yourself because I believe in you. Take care, lots of love, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.